The massive Caterpillar 797F mining truck sat silent and broken in the dusty yard, its enormous tires taller than most men. James Wilson, the mining company owner, stood beside it with a desperate look on his face and a handwritten sign, $100,000 to whoever can fix this truck in 48 hours. Little did he know that the quiet single father who showed up with just a toolbox and his 10-year-old daughter would change everything. If you're wondering how an ordinary mechanic accomplished what specialized engineers couldn't, stay with me until the end, the twist will leave you speechless. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to see more incredible true stories of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Mike Reeves wiped the sweat from his brow as he stared at the job posting on his phone. 6 months unemployed, bills piling up, and his daughter Lily's medical treatments weren't going to pay for themselves. The mining company 2 towns over was offering a fortune to fix their broken Caterpillar 797F, one of the largest mining trucks in the world. Mike had never worked on something that massive before, but he had 20 years of experience fixing everything from lawnmowers to bulldozers. What did he have to lose? "Daddy, are we going on an adventure?" Lily asked, her small face peering around the doorframe of their modest kitchen. At 10 years old, she'd already endured more than most adults, diagnosed with a rare form of juvenile arthritis that required expensive treatments not fully covered by insurance. "Maybe, sweetheart," Mike replied, trying to mask his desperation with a smile. "How would you feel about a little road trip tomorrow?" The next morning, they packed a small bag and drove the 2 hours to Black Ridge mining operations in Mike's rusted pickup truck. The security guard at the gate laughed when Mike explained why he was there. "You and about 50 other guys," the guard said, waving them through. "Good luck. That beast has stumped everyone so far." The mining yard was chaotic. Men in hard hats clustered around the enormous yellow machine, arguing and pointing. Off to the side stood a tall man in a button-down shirt with rolled-up sleeves, looking increasingly agitated as he checked his watch. "That's Mr. Wilson," the guard had told Mike. "Owner of the operation. He's losing about $200,000 every day that truck isn't running." Mike parked his truck and helped Lily out. She clutched her stuffed rabbit, eyes wide at the enormous machines surrounding them. Several mechanics turned to stare at the newcomer who'd brought a child to a mining operation. "Sir," Mike approached James Wilson directly, extending his hand. "I'm Mike Reeves. I'd like to take a look at your truck." Wilson sized him up with skeptical eyes. "You brought your kid to a job interview?" "I'm a single dad," Mike explained simply. "No one to watch her. But I promise she won't be in the way. She's good at sitting quietly with her books." Wilson's face softened slightly. "I've got 2 kids myself. But this isn't a playground, it's dangerous." "I understand. She'll stay in my truck, windows down, where I can see her. I just need a chance, sir." Something in Mike's direct gaze must have convinced Wilson. "Fine. You've got the same deal as everyone else. Fix it within 48 hours, the money's yours. But your daughter stays safe or you're out immediately." Mike nodded and returned to his truck, setting Lily up with her books and snacks. "I need to work on that big truck over there. You stay here where it's safe, okay? Is this for the money to make me better?" Lily asked, her eyes wise beyond her years. Mike's throat tightened. "Yes, sweetheart. But also because fixing things is what I do best." "You'll fix it, Daddy. You fix everything." With those words bolstering his confidence, Mike grabbed his toolbox and approached the behemoth machine. The Caterpillar 797F was a monster, standing nearly 25 feet tall with tires twice Mike's height and an engine that could generate over 4,000 horsepower. Several mechanics snickered as he approached. "Another one for the slaughter," a burly man in overalls commented. "What's your specialty, buddy? Lawn mowers?" Mike ignored them, circling the truck slowly, examining every visible component with methodical precision. He climbed the access ladder and settled into the operator's cabin, familiarizing himself with the controls. Then he began a systematic check of the electrical systems. Hours passed. The sun climbed high and then began its descent. Other mechanics came and went, some cursing in frustration, others making wild guesses about the problem. Mike worked steadily, occasionally walking back to check on Lily and bring her food from the site's canteen. As evening approached, Wilson returned. Making any progress? Maybe, Mike said cautiously. I've eliminated several possibilities. I'll need to check the engine control module next, but I'll need access to your diagnostic computer. Wilson nodded. Use whatever you need. Just fix it. As darkness fell, Wilson approached Mike again. We've got a small apartment on site for visiting engineers. You and your daughter can stay there tonight. Mike was grateful. He collected Lily and their small bag and followed Wilson to a modest but clean apartment above the administrative offices. Daddy, did you fix the big truck? Lily asked as he tucked her into bed. Not yet, sweetheart. But I will. I know, she said, yawning. You always figure it out. Mike stayed up late into the night, reviewing the truck's schematics he'd found in the site office. Something wasn't adding up. The reported symptoms didn't match any single mechanical failure he could think of. The next morning, Mike was back at the truck before sunrise. He connected the diagnostic computer and ran a complete system check. Nothing obvious appeared. By midday, he disassembled and checked several major components, all while the clock ticked down on Wilson's 48-hour deadline. Lily sat patiently in the shade of a nearby building, reading her books and occasionally waving to her father. Some of the site workers had taken a liking to her, bringing her cold drinks and snacks. One even found a spare hard hat that she wore proudly, giggling at how it slipped down over her eyes. As the afternoon wore on, Mike's frustration mounted. He'd checked everything he could think of. The engine was mechanically sound. The electrical systems showed no faults. The hydraulics were functioning correctly. What was he missing? He sat on the ground, leaning against one massive tire, and closed his eyes for a moment. The sounds of the mining operation continued around him, machinery, voices, the constant industrial hum. And then, almost imperceptibly, he heard something else. A faint, irregular clicking coming from somewhere inside the truck's massive frame. Mike's eyes snapped open. He scrambled to his feet and climbed back into the engine compartment, pressing his ear against various components. There it was again, a subtle clicking that shouldn't be there, coming from the junction box that housed the truck's central computer. With renewed energy, Mike carefully removed the protective housing. Inside, nestled among the complex array of circuit boards and wiring, he spotted something unusual, a tiny hairline fracture on one of the main circuit boards, almost invisible to the naked eye. Every time the system tried to power up fully, the fracture would widen slightly, breaking the circuit and causing the truck to shut down. I found it, Mike whispered to himself. He quickly checked the inventory system and discovered they had a replacement board in stock. Within 2 hours, he had carefully removed the damaged component, installed the new one, and reassembled the housing. The moment of truth arrived as the sun began to set on the second day. A crowd had gathered, mechanics, miners, office staff, all watching as Mike climbed into the operator's cabin. Lily stood with Wilson, clutching her stuffed rabbit tightly. Mike took a deep breath and turned the key. The massive engine coughed once, twice, then roared to life with a deafening rumble that shook the ground. The dashboard lit up normally, all systems reporting ready. Mike carefully tested each function, hydraulics, steering, braking, everything worked perfectly. A cheer erupted from the crowd as Mike shut down the engine and climbed down. Wilson rushed forward, his face a mixture of disbelief and joy. How did you find it? He demanded. We had Caterpillar's top engineers look at this thing. Mike shrugged. Sometimes you need to listen more than look. There was a hairline fracture in the main circuit board, probably happened during shipping or installation. It was causing an intermittent failure that wouldn't show up on standard diagnostics. Wilson shook his head in amazement. $100,000, as promised. He pulled out his phone and made a quick call to his finance department. They'll have the transfer ready for you tomorrow morning. Mike nodded, suddenly overwhelmed. That money would cover Lily's treatments for years. It would give them breathing room, maybe even let them move to a better apartment. Daddy! Lily ran to him, throwing her arms around his waist. You fixed it. I told you you would. Mike lifted her up, hugging her tightly. I had a good luck charm, he said, tapping her nose gently. That evening, Wilson invited them to dinner at his home. Over the meal, Mike shared his story, how he'd been laid off when the auto plant in his hometown closed, how he'd been struggling to find steady work while caring for Lily and managing her medical needs. You know, Wilson said thoughtfully, we've been looking for a head mechanic for our equipment division. Someone who can train others and oversee maintenance for all our heavy machinery. The pay's good, includes full medical benefits. Interested? Mike nearly choked on his water. Are you serious? Dead serious. You did in 2 days what a team of specialists couldn't do in 2 weeks. That's exactly the kind of problem solver I need. 3 months later, Mike and Lily moved into a comfortable house just 10 minutes from the mining operation. Lily's new doctors had her on a treatment plan that was already showing promising results. Mike headed a team of mechanics, teaching them his methodical approach to troubleshooting. The story of the single dad who fixed the unfixable truck spread throughout the industry. Other companies began calling, asking for his consultation on their toughest mechanical problems. Mike always declined politely. He had found his place, and more importantly, security for his daughter. One evening, as they sat on their new porch watching the sunset, Lily looked up from her book. Daddy, are you happy we came here? Mike smiled, thinking about how close they'd come to financial ruin, how desperate he'd been when he saw that job posting. Very happy, sweetheart. Sometimes the biggest challenges bring the biggest rewards. Like fixing that giant truck. Exactly like that. He ruffled her hair gently. But you know what? The truck wasn't the most important thing I fixed. What was? Mike looked out at their new beginning, the home they could now afford, the medical care that was helping his daughter grow stronger every day, the community that had welcomed them. Our future, he said simply. I fixed our future. And that's the incredible true story of how Mike Reeves changed his family's life with determination, skill, and the courage to take on a challenge that intimidated everyone else. Sometimes the most extraordinary solutions come from the most ordinary people, those who have everything to lose and the determination to succeed against all odds. If this story inspired you, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more amazing real-life stories of courage and perseverance. Remember, sometimes the biggest challenges in life lead to the most unexpected blessings. What challenge are you facing that might be your turning point?